Friday, November 17th. Welcome back to the Lock and Cash podcast. Jeff here from Lock and Cash with my man Bruce. Bruce, can you believe it already? Fourth episode. 4 episodes, 4 out of 1 million. We're almost there.
Only, I don't know, you're the math guy, but there's a lot more to go.
There's a lot more to go. And we'll be here doing this every week. So, big weekend ahead, man. An NFL Week 11. I can't even believe that we're at Week 11 already. And then on top of that, because people just forget about college football Week 12 with only 2 real college football Saturdays left with like full slates. After that, it's like bowl games mixed in stuff. Only tomorrow and one more, and that's it. College football is basically nearly over until you get to the playoff. And that's going to be wild too.
And man, I feel like I take for granted football every season because when it's not here, I'm literally just counting the days, right? And then once it starts, I'm a Jets fan, so there's not a whole lot to look forward to for my personal team on Sundays. But yeah, it just kind of flies by and then it leaves and then you're like, oh my God, when is it coming back? And it's like, dude, lesson learned, cherish it while it's here. All right. Yep. You got a wife, you got a girlfriend, you tell her.
Exactly.
I only got this for a couple months a year.
That's it.
No, I'm not going to Home Goods. No, I'm not going to Marshalls. We're not picking out candles this weekend. Yep. I'm watching Zach Wilson throw for 146 yards. Bingo. All right. That's what I'm doing this weekend. I'm watching Breece Hall rush for 2.2 yards a carry. That's what I'm doing on my Sunday.
That's the priority.
Should understand. They should know that it's just what we need to do.
That's it. It's that even the bad beats hit different. Watching your team struggle hits different. It's different when it's football. After that, all you're gonna be stuck with is NBA 30-point blowouts every night. No competitive games. College kids missing free throws, and then you're right back to spring training for baseball. So you got to enjoy the football while it's here for sure. And this week, kind of low key in the UFC this week, but I know you have some stuff that you like there too, so we'll talk about that.
I do. We've been on a bit of a cold streak. Had some bad beats coming out of last weekend. We had a tie. We had some questionable stuff go on, but overall, we're still rocking for 2023, and we're gonna end the year strong.
Yeah, he'll finish strong. And on the pod, actually, though, the pod was pretty good, though. You gave out Pereira on the pod. You gave out Saint Denis on the pod.
Yeah.
So the pod plays did fine. I think Pavlovich was the only one he just got KO'd so fast. Yeah. He just never gave us a chance.
It's when heavyweights get together, man, it's like everybody's head is still about the same size, but they're like 260 pounds. So, that was dicey. I mean, Sergey hit him with a 1-2 in the beginning, and I was like, oh, here we go. But he went a little bit too wide on the hook and got caught. So
for sure.
But yeah, Alex, new light heavyweight champion. We did very accurately break down that Yuri blocks everything with his face.
He tried to block it with his face. Didn't work.
Tried. Samurai spirit, baby. Doesn't work against a world-renowned kickboxer.
Oh man, good stuff. Yeah, so bounce back this weekend, and all right. So let's get into my first spot. And remember, on this pod, we're not gonna do like what a lot of other shows do, go to every game on the slate. There's a lot of games, guys, where there's just like you can find trends, but there's a difference between finding like a meaningful trend and a trend that's just kind of wishy-washy. So we're here to highlight the spots where we think you really have an edge. So first game I want to talk about is an AFC divisional game. AFC North divisional game, Steelers versus Browns. And this is one of those games where we know this division always play each other close, right? And you can find like there's a trend out there about the underdog in AFC North games, how they're like 60% over the last 10 years. One of the things to mention though about this game is that trend doesn't really apply, is there is no point spread. This is a pick'em of -110 on both sides. And I think this is a great situational spot this week to back Cleveland. So I think this line's just an overreaction to the Deshaun Watson news. And the fact that he's out now with season-ending shoulder surgery, he was clearly playing hurt. You look at the difference between them when PJ Walker was on the field versus Deshaun Watson was on the field. Are they better with Watson? Sure, I'm not going to debate that. But the gap is not nearly as as wide as you would expect it to be, right?
Right.
And even if they were in this game to, for some reason, go with DTR, Dorian Thompson Robinson, the rookie, he made a start earlier this year and looked awful. But the thing was that they didn't know he was starting till like the day of. He
Right.
didn't get any practices in. He didn't get any reps with the first team. So it's like even him on a full week's notice might be okay. We don't know. But we know what you're. I mean, PJ Walker put up 40 points earlier this year at Indianapolis, like on the road. This is not, a guy that can't come in and run an offense. I'm not saying he's going to sling the ball over the place, but they can do just fine. But the bigger angle is on the other side because as much as I love Mike Tomlin and how great he is at planning, especially when he's catching points. But remember, this is a pick 'em. But they've just been insanely. I don't even want to use the word lucky, but Pittsburgh has had so much good fortune this season. It's just like a lot of things have bounced their way. One of the things that I like to use is the luck ratings that Action Network puts out. They do a good job with those. Pittsburgh is by far number one. And even if you go to other sources like team rankings or covers, they all have Pittsburgh number one as the luckiest team so far in the NFL. Part of that is their plus 10 turnover differential. So they've turned over their opponents 18 times, and they've only turned the ball over 8 times. I mean, think about how huge that is when you're playing one game a week to constantly have the edge over the other team.
Quarter Kenny, take
Yeah, exactly. It's insane. So number one in luck rating, number one in turnover differential, tons of intercept. I think they have like 2 or 3 defensive touchdowns, which is like top 3 in the league. On top of this, the other thing is that's one thing to have that turnover differential, but they turn over their opponents with insane field position. You know what I mean? Like they are constantly giving their offense short fields to work with. So drives that would end up being punts end up being field goals, and it's just a huge advantage for them. But historically, there's 2 times where when a team's going like this in the NFL, you get hit with regression. Number one is in a divisional game, and number 2 is the second part of the season. And we have both of those live here. So I think just getting the home team minus 110, one of the best defenses in the league. Cleveland still has one of the best defenses in the league, even though they have an injured quarterback. I love this spot for the Browns. On top, and then also look back earlier this year, the Steelers won the first game at home, and they put up like 27 points or something on Cleveland's defense. That I don't see that happening again. I think the Browns make the adjustments, and these AFC North teams, they tend to split a lot. Like the Ravens just lost last week to the Browns. They split because they won the first game, so they split. The Ravens won the first game earlier this year against the Bengals. The Steelers beat the Ravens. Like these teams are always just, when they play each other twice a season, and they always go 1-1, 1-1, 1-1. I think Cleveland has the edge in this game. I would look to bet them at minus 110. And I'd honestly play it up to like 2.5, as long as you don't go beyond the key number of 3. I don't see it getting steamed up much further, but I like the Browns. I think the Browns are your situational spot of the week in the NFL, if you like that type of betting.
I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Like a hurt Deshaun Watson is about a PJ Walker. When you look at the stats, when you look at how they performed comparatively when we knew Deshaun was dealing with injuries. And it feels like on this podcast, we're just raking on AFC divisional games. I feel like every single time there is an AFC divisional game, there is a spot to play on it. And are all of these teams making the playoffs this year?
I know, it's insane, dude.
Is anybody
really hard.
Is anybody not going to make the playoffs in the AFC North?
I mean, right now the team out is the Bengals, which is crazy. But yeah, I'll say so. Me personally, the Ravens, we knew were going to be good, and the Bengals were, but we didn't expect. I don't think we expected this much of a jump from Cleveland, and also this Pittsburgh was not even expected to be a good team.
I know.
So the fact that they're 6-3 just goes back to the luck thing we were just talking about. So yeah, I mean, you're right though. Divisional games, especially AFC North, AFC West, these divisional battles, like like a couple weeks ago, Chiefs Broncos, we cashed the Broncos. Like there's a lot of data, a lot of systems that the dogs these teams play each other close, and anything could happen. And they split. That's the big thing I want to also drive home. Like the split is key. So if you didn't play the first game when the Steelers won, you could just kind of observe and say, oh, let me keep that in the back of my head for the next time they play to maybe try and zigzag it if the angles are there. And the angles are
Right.
here for this one. It's all set up nicely. So I love this play. So like we've had a couple of 3-unit plays in the NFL this season. One of them was the Broncos on Monday night because we did 2 on the spread, 1 on the money line, and then so we had a few there. This could be I'm not sure yet, but this could be another one of those. That's how much I like it. So
Ooh, all
Browns
right.
minus 110.
There you go.
That's my first situational spot. I like that one a lot.
Cool.
Um,
Let's jump into the next one.
The next one would be in college. So, next game we're going to talk about Louisville versus Miami. This one is you're going to see a lot of people talking about this because there's not a huge it's not a super hype college football slate this weekend, but this is a pretty good matchup, ACC conference matchup. But the thing I want to point out here is Miami opened as the dog, and it's now flipped. Okay, so when a line flips like this with a team at home, like casual better comes and looks at this is like Louisville's ranked 10th in the country. They're 8-1 or whatever it is, 9-1. Like, oh, this should be a piece of cake. Why is it the spread's basically a pick? Why is it a 1-point spread? But once that spread flipped and Miami became the favorite, even though they're just 6-4 this year, it activates a system. So now that Miami's the favorite, you have an unranked team at home that's favored over a ranked team. So just on the surface, normal person is going to be like, oh, a 10th ranked team in the country, and I don't have to lay any points with them. Great.
Easy.
But in actuality, Louisville has really played a very soft schedule, one of the softest in the country. And they've had, again, this goes back to playing against teams that are due for regression that have kind of gotten a little bit lucky. The one time they've played a really good opponent was when they faced Notre Dame. Notre Dame turned the ball over 5 times in that game. It was a bad situational spot for Notre Dame, so Louisville kind of took advantage of it. But that was also a home game for Louisville. They've really only played 2 true road games this year. They struggled in both of them. They squeezed out a win against Virginia, who's like the bottom of the barrel in the conference.
Right.
And I forget what the second game was, but it was also a close game. I think it was a 3-point win. So, and then you have Miami. Miami, a lot of people are going to remember this season for Miami with that game that they blew against Georgia Tech where they could have kneeled to run the clock out, but for some reason they ran the football and then they fumbled it.
Yes.
And Georgia Tech recovered and threw a 50-yard touchdown to win the game. So it's like ever since then, everyone's like, forget it. I'm done. We're done with that team. But they've had a couple of those where they just make these weird end of game mistakes, but they've played a much tougher schedule. They've had a lot worse luck. And, we're end of the season now. This is where you're going to find value on teams. Like Louisville has a bowl game locked up. Like this is where you're going to find value on those teams that are trying to play spoiler. And this could be one of those spots. And then finally the stat. Oh, I forgot to give the stat. So unranked home teams, favored over ranked teams, the last 5 years, 29-12 against the spread. So that's 71%. That's money right there. 71% is really good. So, and it's 2-0 this season, by the way. We cashed both times. Kentucky over Florida, unranked home team favored over the rank, and UCLA over Washington State. So it's only happened 2 times. It doesn't come around a lot each year. It's like 4 or 5 games a year, sometimes less. But this is the 3rd one this season, going for 3-0. So
now,
I like Miami.
How does this rank on across like your college systems? 71% is pretty high. What's the Service Academy unders?
Oh, no, that's in the 80s. Yeah, the Service Academy unders is like 84%. It's
would
crazy.
this be like number 2 on your systems?
It's up there, but it's a smaller sample size. Like you have less than 50 games on there, or less than 40 games on this. So, less than 50 games. So it's a little bit of a small sample size. There's a couple like conference road dogs with low totals that has a much larger sample size, and it's like a 58, 59-ish%. Because remember, it's not always just the percentage. It's you want to see it across a long time period. Like you don't want like a 15 minutes of fame kind of system, if you get what I'm saying, like where it's like it's hot for 1 year and then it's useless. Like you want something that's 5, 6, 7 years that's kind of durable, so you can keep going back to it, keep going back to the honeypot every year, versus something that's just like it pops off 1 year and then it's gone the next. So, but this one has been for 5 years now. There's a handful of games each year, and each year they seem to do at least 3-2, 3-1, 4-2. This year so far 2-0. So we'll see what happens. But I like Miami in the game, even without the system. The line movement, right? The line flip, the steam's coming in on Miami, the situational spot favors them. The system's kind of just like the little cherry on top for it.
Right. Woo. All right, let's get it. So so we got one NFL pick. We got one college pick.
Yeah. Yeah, those are really my two like situational spots that I wanted to really highlight that are active this week. But I know you wanted to talk about the main event for UFC Fight Night, so we can get into
I
that for a
do.
little bit.
I do. It's not a sexy one for most people, but I'm very interested in it. We got the Highlander Paul Craig versus Brendan Allen. And in this one, I think there's a lot of value. There's there's some trends that go against us here, but I think the line is swinging in a way where now there's value back. So we have Paul Craig versus going against Brendan Allen, two guys that are, Paul Craig is coming down from light heavyweight. He's in a second fight down from light heavyweight. First one he won against another big big middleweight in Andre Muniz, who's also a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. So this fight is a battle of very similar guys coming down from different weight classes. So Brendan Allen, good ground game, pretty decent stand up. I think he stands up more than anybody wants him to. But and then same thing with our boy Paul Craig, right? Fantastic Brazilian jiu-jitsu. The one system that is in play here that goes against Paul Craig is going to be the age system. I think there's like a 7 to 8 year difference. Paul Craig being 35, Brendan Allen being in his like late 20s. That system hits about 60% for the younger guy. But the line here is plus 330. So the implied probability on that, I think, is like 15% for Paul Craig right now. So when you can't run it by that system because that's a 60% system. So if we're going by that, well, Paul Craig has like what, like 25 points of value right there
Yeah.
On that. So I kind of throw that out the window. And then we just look at styles. And, Brendan Allen has a disadvantage on the ground against Paul Craig. Paul Craig has gone up against the biggest hitters in the light heavyweight division and has survived most of those fights and won many of them. So he has a win over true current light heavyweight champ Jamal Hill. He got his title vacated when he tore his Achilles, but he was a light heavyweight champ. Well, Paul Craig broke his arm. I don't know if you guys want to look at that. It's like a helicopter in that fight. He has a late submission victory over Magomed Ankalaev, who is the number 2 ranked light heavyweight in the division. So he has wins over big punchers and top ranked guys in the light heavyweight division. Brendan Allen doesn't. Brendan Allen's top probably ranked fight is against now champion Sean Strickland, where he got knocked out, right? So I think the competition is different. I think Paul Craig coming down from light heavyweight to middleweight is a great transition. I think he's a really big middleweight. He's very powerful, and he can actually do some power jiu-jitsu where he's sort of forcing positions versus like just trying to get to that spot on the ground with bigger guys. So I really like Paul Craig in this one. I know it's another big dog coming in, but like plus 330, there's a ton of value there on this guy. And Brendan Allen in the past, now this is a little, aside, he loves playing into the game plan of his opponent. He's the type of guy that wants to go in there and beat you at your own game. He said that when he's fought jiu-jitsu guys. He's like, I want to submit Andre Muniz. I want to knock out the striker. So if he goes in with that same sort of, I want to beat you at your own game plan because I think I'm a champion and I think I'm the best everywhere, I think he's going to run into a weird spot with Paul Craig because that man is big and he submits people all the time. So let me adjust myself in my seat here. I'm going with Paul Craig at plus 330. There's too much value on this.
Yeah. No.
And there's too much value, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. And one of the things that I even remember was that in his last fight, I don't remember who the opponent was, but we hit on Paul Craig like nearly
versus Andre Muniz.
There you go. So he was like plus 195 or something. So this is not like this is not someone who's just like throw it on him because he's plus 300. He's live to win. He can absolutely win. He's done it before. He could do it again. Now I know you mentioned the age thing. How much pause does that give you? Or do do you think something like that is kind of with like in this stylistic matchup, like you were talking about, this kind of just like put it to the side, like because we talked about trends that are relevant versus trends that are not, you know.
Yeah. So I kind of put this aside. The only thing that gives me pause about this matchup is there's going to be a likely speed difference on the feet between Paul Craig and Brendan Allen. I think Brendan Allen is going to be faster. And then how much does that dictate the pace of the fight and what Paul Craig is able to do is that's where I'm pausing. Like he's a favorite for a reason. He's younger, he's faster. But once that goes to the ground, speed's not a factor anymore. Hand speed's not a factor anymore once you go down to the ground. And I think that's where this fight ultimately ends up, for all the reasons I said. And there's one more thing about Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen in fights where he's favored is only 50% on the money line. So I think it's like 4 out of his last 8 or so. I got to look up the number, but he's only won 50% of the fights that he's been favored in. And he's been a heavy favorite in a number of fights. All right, we have Uros Medic versus Mektebek Oralbai. Don't laugh. I'm trying my best here. This is a short notice spot for Oralbai, where he's coming from an LFA fight on October 27th. He's coming in here short notice. He's the favorite against Uros Medic, who is scheduled to fight Johnny Parsons, and that fight is canceled. In that fight, we had Uros by knockout over Johnny Parsons. We think Uros is a killer on the feet, and we're just going to dominate that fight. Now we look at Oralbai, strong striker, pretty good ground game, but the spot is what I think matters here. When you are a short notice fighter coming in to a UFC fight, and you are the favorite in that fight, the odds there, the actual win percentage on that is very low. I don't have the number on me right now, but those spots are usually fantastic for the dog, right? Dog had a full camp. Body is prepared. Mind is prepared. And then you have this person basically coming off the couch. You have no idea what kind of shape this person's in. You have no idea where their head's at in this fight. Are they just taking it for a check? Are they trying to go up the ranks? This guy is an LFA guy that got called for his shot at the UFC. So he's never going to turn that down. You get an opportunity to fight in the UFC, you usually take it no matter what. He's a short notice replacement. He's coming from LFA, just fought on the 27th. That is not a lot of time between fights. And the guy who he fought was not really UFC caliber. If you look at his 5 on in, the overall record of the guys he fought, they're just over 50% win rate. Most of those guys are 18-15, 9-9, 10-10. These are not UFC caliber guys. Uros has fought ranked contenders in the lightweight division, went up to welterweight, had a great showing against Matthew Semmelsberger. So overall, I think when you look at the strength of schedule for Uros, it's there. When you look at his preparation, it's there. You look at his knockout power and his striking, it's there. I think that this is going to be a fun fight, but overall, I think Uros is going to win. I would probably take him on the money line. I still like him by KO, but I probably wouldn't bet it. But I think we're going to go money line. We're going to take the person with the full camp who's a dog in this fight. We've done it time and time again, and we've made money on it. So we're going to go with Uros Medic money line. I think that's sitting around plus 120 right now. Not many books have it because the fight just got booked, I believe yesterday or the day before. So I see it on Bet Rivers. I see it on Unibet. But we'll wait until those lines come up on FanDuel and DraftKings. I would get in as soon as possible. I think if we're playing this smart, that line's probably going to flip or get closer to even as fight night goes on.
We are past technical difficulties. I am on my phone.
Back. But we're back. And we're back just to wrap up because it's time for the Pocket Change Parlays of the week, man.
Let's do it.
All right. So I'll go first. My parlay this week, I'm going to keep it to 2 legs because the last 2 weeks I've missed by 1 leg. The first time we did it, the Cowboys didn't come through. And then this past weekend, it was the Titans. I actually got the dog outright. The Cardinals won outright. And then
Insane.
the Seahawks won, and it was just the Titans couldn't even keep it competitive. All right, but anyway, for mine this week, let me actually pull it up. All right, so 2 legs, like I said. I already gave you guys the explanation for the first leg. The first leg's the Cleveland Browns on the money line, which, by the way, since we started this podcast, is starting to tick up. It's not a minus 110 anymore. It's now minus 120. So the steam's coming in. But explain why I love the Browns in this spot. Pittsburgh definitely due for some regression. High turnover differential, high luck rating. I think it's an overreaction to the Deshaun Watson injury. So give me the Browns money line as the first leg. And the second leg, I'm going right back to the well, guys, with the Arizona Cardinals. I'm telling you, I know this is weird. Now, the difference is I'm going to play this one a little safe. I'm taking them on the spread, +4. They're +4 on the spread, all right? So this is going to come back at +270-ish, right around there. But the thing about the Cardinals is I know we don't love them as a team. They're not a great team. But I think they're a bet on team going forward now that they're healthy on offense with Kyler Murray back, James Conner back. And you saw last week when they needed a game-winning drive, like he just walked down the field on Atlanta. Like I think teams forgot how fast the dude is, how elusive he is in the pocket. Him coming back is almost like, oh shit, we forgot about this guy. Like,
well, he's been a meme. He's been a meme for a while.
He's been a meme. Yeah.
It's like we got to dump Kyler Murray. He sucks. All he does is play Call of Duty, and now he's back. And it's like, oh wow, this guy can play football. It's like
Yeah, exactly. Like I was never a huge fan, but now that he's back, you're like, oh shit, all right. He still is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Definitely a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. So it's like, he comes back last week, some big scrambles, some big plays. By the way, that last drive of the game was a walk-in touchdown, but they kneeled to kick the field goal. Like there was no resistance at all. So He can move the ball. It's a little bit of a tough matchup against the Texans, but one of the other reasons I like this leg is because the Texans are coming off of a huge win as a 7-point underdog. I like to fade teams after they pull off big upsets like that. So the Texans just beat the Bengals in Cincinnati. Now they come back home. The Cardinals come in. I think it's a great spot for Arizona. Again, I like them on the spread. So Browns money line, Cardinals +4.5. That's going to be a +270 parlay for my pocket change parlay of the week. It's not really that much of a pocket change parlay because the odds are kind of, they're not these crazy long shot odds. Yours is definitely a pocket change parlay.
I got one for you.
That's where you come in. So mine's just going to be a 2-legger there.
I got a pocket change parlay.
Let's go.
Okay. I got a real one. So we're looking at +846 on a 2-legger. Hopefully last week, we dropped 1 out of our 3. We didn't hit it. We got Benoit. We got Alex. Lost to Sergey 1. 2 big guys going at it. What can you do? But this week, hopefully I'm dropping the right leg, and I'm going to end up with 2 bangers for you. We talked about it earlier in the podcast. We're going Paul Craig money line +330 right now. We think there's too much value on somebody with his skill set, and in that matchup, I think it's going to go to the ground, and I think Paul Craig is going to have an advantage there. The next leg is going to be Euros Medic. Currently, as of right now, +120. I think that line is going to get a lot closer. Maybe Euros is going to end up being the favorite there, and we're just going to take the money line on that one as well. We think there's too much value on that. When we've talked about it before, short notice replacements like Oral Boy is usually a really bad spot to bet when they are the favorite, right? Somebody coming in with very little camp, just fought on the 27th, don't know how healthy he is coming out of that after another long camp before that. So usually not a great spot to bet on those folks. So we're going to take the money line on Euros Medic. You slap those 2 together, and you got a true 2-leg pocket change parlay +846. And this is one that I am excited to put in once my favorite sports book decides to list the Euros Medic fight, because it is short notice.
Dope. Yeah, that's definitely, yeah. See, I didn't live up to the name pocket change parlay this week. I went a little bit conservative because
I embody it.
But
I embody it, Jeff.
You are all in with the +850. So we'll see how it pans out. No, but we talked about the reasons why you like those legs. So there's certainly, even just playing them straight, there's certainly a lot of value. But hey, why not? That's why it's a lottery ticket each week. You got to have a little bit of fun. So
You guys will thank me. You guys will thank me on Saturday night.
let's go. All right, cool, man. So talked about Paul Craig, talked about Medici, I talked about the Browns, I talked about Miami Hurricanes in college football. That was the pod for the week. We'll be back next week with some more stuff as we keep this moving. This will be a once a week thing, as I've said before. Anything else, Bruce? Are we good, man?
No, next week got to do it in person, man. You got to come through.
Yes.
You got to come through to the pod room, and
Yes.
then we'll
no more
we'll
no more technical difficulties next week. We'll be back live in the studio.
We'll find one.
We'll find something for sure.
We'll find one.
All right, guys.
All right,
and I should mention weekend pass is up, $19 for the whole weekend. Code month 50's up. The Gridiron Pass is discounted. There's like a ton of options for anybody who wants to join. And one cool thing, I don't think we mentioned it before, a lot of people that are watching and a lot of our TikTok and Instagram stuff, they have Linktree notifications on. So like when I throw up the weekend pass, I'm just like, all right, let me throw it up. They just jump on it. So like if you're watching, like turn on those Linktree notifications. It doesn't hurt to find out because we'll drop promos in there from time to time. Like there were some people that knew the Gridiron Pass was discounted before I even announced it on anywhere because they have the Linktree notifications on. So that's kind of cool. If you guys are looking for like a quick way to find out when we drop things. And merch, by the way, merch store is coming. I'm waiting to be, you know what's funny, dude? I had to apply for approval on Wix. I guess I never did that. Like our website hosting platform is Wix. So like I'm waiting once they approve. I had to put my driver's license and everything so that we can get the merch store set up. So that'll probably be up next week sometime. So
it's just the merch was just too fire. They were like, you need a license for this.
Like, they were like, well, we need to slow down because these are gonna just bust our servers. We need to slow this down.
I need you to register these.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be up next week. And all right, guys, until next week, good luck with your bets. See you later. Peace out, Bruce.
Lock Nation. Bye, guys.